video, we'll look into a scenario in which the United Kingdom goes to war with Europe. And the first thing they do is probably obvious. They quickly invade Ireland, the only nation in Europe they have a land border with. Which, not that old of a border, only like 100 years old. But anyways. And as Britain quickly and swiftly moves through Ireland, facing fierce resistance. But swiftly they do succeed. As they cut off access to Ireland by seizing the Faroe Islands, they end up landing in Iceland and cutting it in half. And taking the half of it. Then they quickly move right to the capital, Reykjavik. Yeah. And the full country of Iceland has managed to fall. And the UK makes the people in the countries they fall fight with them. So yeah. As they invade the Netherlands and Belgium, because they can. And Germany they could get away with too. But France tries to secure this, but manages to push it back slightly, but can't do it fully. Basically, the UK has turned these from that into occupation zones. Well, they probably annexed a few, but, like, no need to show that. As they are, at this point, getting people they occupy to fight alongside them. They don't occupy as many people as Europe quite yet, but they quickly could. With the UK realizing France may knock them out there, but at least they can make a landing here. Keep in mind, this is just Europe. And there's also no NATO. And Russia loses like half its territory, but anyways. As they quickly move across Sweden in the north. Russia can't send forces here easily. They can only send a few. They do send forces. Britain managing to hold off further Russian advance as they move down towards Oslo. They quickly take Norway's capital. Norway doesn't surrender. With them landing in this area and holding this securely as they build a naval blockade. They then land here and move down to form another one. They move down Sweden's coast. Sweden isn't struggling to move them out. Many of the Baltics, including Russia, aren't getting any food or resources they need. With a landing in Portugal, that shows the end of this alliance between Portugal and England. With the capture of the Galician region, France sends forces here to push the British back. They don't manage to push them back too far. As Britain establishes an occupied zone in Portugal, which is where they're getting people to join. They also do that in Norway. They create an occupied zone. Even though they don't occupy all of it, just because they want to get the people to be technically part of them, but technically not. To make them basically turn what's left of their militaries on Europe. Germany having a bad time, but France moves forces in, and with Germany and Poland, they push the British back. But France is focused on trying to retake Portugal, which has been made into a British puppet. This one, Iceland and Ireland, was actually annexed. With France taking the capital of Portugal, Britain manages to stop the advance at this point, but yeah. With them now, fully mobilized and everything, and sending basically every troop that they can get to Europe, and basically they have 10 million troops right now, somehow. And their goal is to take out Germany at this point. So they quickly, with lots of forces, move and capture Berlin. Well, that's south of Berlin, but anyways, that will be Berlin. With them having successfully taken eastern Germany, parts of Czechia, and Poland. With them moving through Benelux, Germany at this point falling over. And along with this, they basically make an occupation zone here. They make this into the German occupation zone in Denmark and Dutch. And they add the lands they occupy from Sweden to it. And their biggest problem is that they're fighting a two-front war. France is at this point, as Germany has been turned into a British puppet with probably some lands being annexed. Germany also invading Austria at the same time with British help, and Poland. And Britain makes a landing in these two spots. With the Portuguese puppet thing being re-liberated, it seems like this is impossible. Anyways. And yeah. That's basically how much Spain eventually falls over to Britain, along with them making a landing in Italy. Russia's starting to get their forces ready, as they're been getting them ready the full time. They're still training because they want the best trained army for some reason. With the fall of France's south coast by Italy, which is soon going to be turned into an occupation zone, and France eventually falls, which is a big deal. With all the land occupied being turned into the occupation zone, it's really just Russia who's left to stop them. But they probably will get stopped eventually. Not to say how soon. With Britain occupying most of Sweden at this point, and a big invasion of Eastern Europe is happening. With invasion starting through, yeah. And so, as you can tell, with Eastern Europe, basically everybody's put to front lines. With Finland launching a campaign with the help of Russia to push back into Norway and Sweden. With them managing to occupy down to here. Britain urgently making a bigger, trying to get everyone in the territories they occupy to fight. There are a bit of struggles. And a resistance army breaks out in Germany, Poland, where they decide, along with Czech rebels and Austrian rebels, to start along their borders. And these rebels managing to occupy a huge swath of land, as their pro-liberation armies raise in the east. Russia's determined to take back lands and invade into Poland, with Poland's capital Warsaw being re-liberated by Russian forces. With rebels breaking out all over occupied territory, with Ireland rebels being the most successful, as they managed to kick Britain out of the island of Ireland. They even take Northern Ireland. And they declare themselves independent. As the advancing armies are advancing further north. The Austrian rebels and Czech rebels managing to link up with the Russian army. With the fall of Oslo, meaning basically the fall of British control in Scandinavia. And as we can see, with the fall of British Scandinavia, it's basically, we all know what's about that. With all of these lands being, why did I do that? And so, let's see. And so at this point, we can see the biggest advance going to start. And the biggest advance we see is the retaking of Berlin. Russian forces becoming the strongest force in Europe, I guess, at this point. And with the landing in Italy being ran by Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and the Balkans, along with an invasion of northern Italy by everyone that's been reliberated. But Britain's access to Iceland gets cut off before their access to Ireland. Iceland, why am I calling Iceland Ireland? Because that's a big difference. With Switzerland just going back to the side it was on. With France by being liberated by Italian forces. That's, yeah. With the occupation by Russia being, basically Russia owns Europe at this point. And yes, now Iceland annexes Northern Ireland. What a shock. The idea to do with Britain is to take them over and give all of the groups independence, as they can, because there's a bunch of different countries. With the fall of the United Kingdom and Europe being re-established as Europe was. That's pretty much all for today's video, except the peace treaty. Now let's see the occupation zone in the south, a German occupation zone there, Russian there, and Russian is the top, Polish is below it. But yeah, that's pretty much all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's video and liked the peace treaty, with England being occupied. What a shock. And now let's see what Europe became. Well, Europe became Europe. And also, you see those lines? Those are parts of the countries that were, let's say, and the other parts weren't. But yeah, they're still technically united. Well, divided, technically. And that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. That's pretty much all for today's video. Wild Mapper out. Bye, guys, but not until you subscribe, so please subscribe so we can get to our goal. That's all for today's video. Wild Mapper out. Bye, guys.